On Thursday evening, April 14, 2022, a private preview opens in Venice at Palazzo Velluti, an old palazzo on the Grand Canal. The exhibition, The Eastern Reliquaries, presents small but exceptionally valuable Byzantine objects, gold reliquaries, enameled cross fragments, and liturgical pieces from monasteries, private collections, and restoration depots. The evening is not open to the public. It is for lenders, sponsors, press, and invited guests. The public opening is scheduled for Friday afternoon. Until then, everything appears controlled. Closed display cases, active alarms, security in the galleries, and transport crates already moved back to the temporary depot. On Friday morning, before the first visitors are allowed in, Elena Conti, the assistant curator, and Sofia Rinaldi, the restorer, carry out one final check for the insurance documents and catalog photographs. Sofia asks for the central display case to be opened again. In the middle of the case is a small gold jewel casket shaped like a church, one of the most important pieces in the loan. She lifts it carefully with both hands. For a few seconds, she says nothing. It does not look wrong. That is what makes it worse. The shape is correct. The color is correct. The small wear marks look convincing. Even the fine details on the roof and sides appear to match the original. But in her hands, it does not feel like the original. It is too light. Within an hour, two other objects from the same loan are checked. They are not original either. The first inspection makes the case harder, not easier. There is no broken glass, no forced lock, no alarm report, no sign that anyone entered the gallery during the night. The three replicas are inside locked display cases in the correct positions with the correct inventory cards. To the guests at the private preview, nothing looked unusual. Even in photographs from the evening, the objects appear genuine. Police first look at the people who had access to the gallery and the registration process. Elena Conti is one of the first names. She managed the inventory lists, checked the loan forms, and had the codes to open the cases together with security. There is also a problem with one document. The arrival time of the three objects was changed the day before the preview. Elena made that correction. She says it was because of a delayed delivery at the water entrance. No new object number, no change to the contents of the crates, only a correction to the time the pieces were moved into the temporary depot. Part of that explanation holds. The delivery really was late, but until investigators know when the switch happened, Elena remains exposed. She is not just someone with access. On paper, she is the last person who confirmed the pieces were present. Attention then moves to the transport route. In Venice, valuable objects do not simply arrive through a loading dock. The loan pieces were brought by secured transport boat to a service entrance on the water. That route was managed by Chiara Voss, the transport coordinator. She arranged the time slots, couriers, crates, water access, and temporary storage behind the exhibition gallery. The setup day did not run cleanly. One boat arrived late. Rain slowed the unloading. Catering staff were preparing for the private preview. Lighting technicians were still working in the gallery, and exhibition crews were moving panels and display case parts through the same service corridor. Two crates stood for almost 40 minutes in a side room before they were moved to the depot. That overlap matters. The installation list is crowded. Paolo Greco was assigned to lighting, Marta Leoni to display cleaning, Enzo Ricci to crate handling, and Marco Bellini to display case installation and temporary wall work. At this stage, none of those names stands out. They are all part of the normal setup traffic inside the palazzo. Chiara says the delay was normal for Venice. An old palazzo has no modern loading bay. Everything moves through narrow corridors, over uneven thresholds, and past people doing several jobs at once. Police consider whether the objects were switched during transport or at the water entrance. Footage from the quay shows the boat, the couriers, and the crates. There is confusion, but no clear moment when three objects could be removed from the transport cases unseen. The water route was vulnerable, but it does not explain the replicas. The third direction leads to Vittorio Salvi, a Venetian private collector with a reputation few people in the museum world want to discuss openly. He attended the private preview. He knew the value of the objects. Years earlier, he had tried to buy one of the reliquaries through an intermediary. For the press, Salvi is the obvious name. Wealthy, discreet, well-connected, and interested in objects that almost never enter the legal market. His apartment is searched, so is a storage space on the mainland. Police find catalogs, correspondence, and photographs of Byzantine objects. None of it proves that he arranged the theft, but he remains relevant. One of the 3 missing objects is exactly the reliquary he once tried to acquire. Less recognizable to the general public, and according to Sofia Rinaldi, the easiest of the 3 to imitate convincingly. Then Sofia points out a problem that does not fit a quick theft. The replicas are too good. The wear, discoloration, and small surface marks are based on recent documentation photographs. Someone had studied the objects before they arrived at Palazzo Velluti. Salvi could be a buyer, but he does not explain how the replicas reached the display cases. The theft began before the preview. The breakthrough comes from the temporary depot behind the gallery, not from the display case, not from the footage of the opening night, from the transport crates. The 3 replaced objects arrived in custom-cut foam holders. During the first check, staff mainly looked visually: object present, shape correct, inventory number correct, visible damage matching the file. The technical check, weight, material, mounting points, and close comparison, was scheduled for Friday morning, shortly before the catalog photographs. That was the gap the thieves used. When the crates are examined again, one detail breaks the timeline. The transport holder for the reliquary had been marked as empty before the official installation time. According to the internal workflow, that crate was released before the object should have been inside the display case. At first, it looks like another administrative mistake. Then fibers are found inside the same holder. They come from a black protective cloth not used by the transport company. Sofia later recognizes the material from a small restoration workshop in Mestre, where she had worked years earlier. Police return to the installation list. Most names on it still fit ordinary setup work. Paolo Greco was tied to lighting, Marta Leoni to display cleaning, and Enzo Ricci to crate handling. But one role overlaps with more than one vulnerable point. Marco Bellini had been assigned to display case installation and temporary wall work. That placed him near the cases, near the side room, and near the service corridor where the crates were moved. The question becomes narrower. Who had access to the crates, knew the first check was mostly visual, could move through the setup area without attracting attention, and had a possible link to restoration material from Mestre? That brings Marco Bellini back into view. Not as a curator, not as a transporter, not as a collector, as the man who could move almost anywhere during setup without being questioned. Marco Bellini has worked on exhibitions in Venice, Padua, and Verona for 15 years. He installs display cases, builds temporary walls, moves panels and packing material, and knows the days when museums least resemble museums. During an opening, everyone looks at the galleries. During setup, everyone looks at their own task. According to the reconstruction, the switch happened on Wednesday afternoon. 2 transport holders were temporarily left in a side room. The gallery was not fully secured yet. The cases had been installed, but the final technical check had not been done. The replicas were not hidden in a safe or carried in a dramatic bag. They were packed among installation materials, protective cloth, spare panels, and wooden supports. They looked like normal setup equipment. Bellini had help from a restoration workshop in Mestre. The replicas had been made from photographs, measurements, and damage descriptions passed on months earlier. They were not good enough for a specialist under direct light, but they were good enough for a display case and a quick visual check. The original objects did not leave through the front entrance. They went back into empty packaging crates that were supposed to return to the service corridor after installation. Between foam, cloth, and panels, they were moved to the water entrance. The boat that collected them was not an obvious art transport. It was a small service boat, the kind that came and went around the palazzo throughout the setup. Bellini's motive is not elaborate. He has debts, fewer contracts, and steady access to valuable objects. He sells that access to people who know that certain pieces are worth more outside the official market than inside a catalog. Salvi is never proven to be the buyer, but the reliquary he once wanted is the only object that is never recovered. Marco Bellini is convicted of art theft, forgery, abuse of access, and moving protected cultural property. The court does not treat him as a minor helper. It treats him as the person who understood where museum control ended and routine began. The restoration workshop in Mestre is shut down. One employee admits helping make the replicas, but says he did not know when the originals would be stolen. The court accepts only part of that account. Elena Conti is cleared. The change on her form was careless, but not criminal. Still, the first suspicion damages her career. Chiara Voss is not prosecuted. Her transport schedule was chaotic, but the key footage excludes her as an organizer. Vittorio Salvi is not convicted either. His name remains attached to the case in the press, mainly because the missing piece had once been on his wish list. 2 of the 3 objects are recovered months later in a storage unit outside Padua. The third is not. For Palazzo Velluti, the damage is larger than the value of the missing objects. The theft did not happen at night. It did not happen behind broken glass. It did not happen during the preview. It happened on a Wednesday afternoon, among crates, lights, cloth, and people who appeared to be doing ordinary work.